Hey, welcome to the Jesus, Sex, and Politics podcast. I'm Micah.
I'm Nathan.
And here we talk about all the things the culture doesn't want to talk about.
And that might scare you.
Hey, so today we are going to dive into the topic of woke sports and how it seems like all of the sports industry has gone crazy and has bought into wokeism and political correctness, and they're apologizing over themselves, and they're virtue signaling here and virtue signaling over there. Why is that happening? Why can't we just have sports be sports? It should be an escape from all of the stupidness.
It should be.
But it's not.
I know. They're ruining it.
What is happening?
All the stupid politics in sports is ticking me off. They have ruined my love for the NFL.
I mean, listen, I don't know if it's just this year particularly. I don't know why, but last month was June, which is Gay Pride Month, right? And it seemed like every freaking sports organization on the planet was shoving homosexuality down our throats. Listen, what you do in your bedroom is between you and God. I really don't care. As a pastor, I'm going to tell you what God says about it, but I could care less, honestly. I couldn't care less what you do in your bedroom. But why are you shoving it down people's throats? Like, I love people, but when they start shoving their sex life down my throat, I have a problem with that. I don't want that.
I totally agree. And in terms of, I do care what's going on in people's bedrooms because
I've given up. I don't care.
Well, I actually think it plagues our society.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But as Americans, we agree that there are certain things that people are allowed to do under the law.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But you don't want special privileges. You want you want special recognition. You want special rights. You
don't want
protected class.
Yes, you don't just want acceptance. You want affirmation that what you're doing is 100% okay, and
you have to agree that you have to agree with me.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's nobody in this world that I probably agree with 100% on everything. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean that I don't want to be their friends. I'm not going to agree with people sometimes on things. Again, why is it that we have to agree that your choices are 100% correct all the time? When it's like, okay, like, do you agree? I threw it back on them and said, do you agree? A lot of times I'm arguing with somebody that doesn't believe that Jesus is who he says he is. Say, okay, fine. If we want to play that great game, then you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, or else you have offended me personally and you don't love me. If you can't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, then you're showing me that you don't love me. How dare you, bigot?
The idea that we have to agree with you. They make the argument you go back to the 90s. Oh, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. We just want to live in peace. Well, no. You want to shove it down everybody's face,
which we've seen with the sports,
and the changing every logo to have the rainbow, to have the rainbow and all this stuff, and then to make it a federal case over everything. It's like, can you just let us have some pastimes that are just about who can hit the ball the farthest, or who has the best ERA? Come on, just get back to
we got the gay
stats.
Football player, right? He's the first openly gay football player, or the only openly gay football player right now in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's not the first.
He is on the Raiders, by the way, Mark Marlowe. He's on the Raiders.
That's funny. I've lost touch. They're not even the Los Angeles Raiders anymore, right? What are they? Are they the Los Angeles, San Diego Raiders? What are they?
I think they're Vegas.
Are they Vegas? Oh my gosh! I see. That tells you how out of touch I am. I'm Bo Jackson. Like, I love the Raiders when Bo Jackson was on the Raiders because of Tecmo Bowl. That was an awesome. You picked the Raiders and you had Bo Jackson. You couldn't stop him. It was incredible. What happened to those days?
I remember that.
There was no rainbows and no, Bo Jackson is gay. He's not gay. He's, where it's just Bo Jackson can run a football through the line and destroy the other team. Like, that's awesome. We need to get back to that. But we have this, the first active openly gay NFL player, and it's like you would have thought that we cured cancer. You know what I mean?
Well, and not only that, but then they're throwing all their weight behind it. So if he says I'm going to give towards this particular organization, then you have the NFL says, okay, I'm going to match that.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're playing the politics. NFL has been overtaken with the politics, and it's happened to the NBA, and it's happened. It seems like to almost every sport. It just continues, and I think it's going to have a big old kickback because I think people are just going to leave. They're going to stop.
Yeah,
it's like I love that, but you're ruining it, and I actually love what I love. That's really important in this world more than I love sports.
Yeah, right. And you're starting to see wokeism actually kind of really destroy the competitive element of sports, particularly in women's sports. You have this transgender man. His name is, he goes by CC, I think it's Telford, but I think his name was Craig. And he was...
is this the runner?
He's a 400 meters hurdles runner.
He was terrible amongst guys.
He was Division II, NCAA Division II, and he was like 200th, I think, in the nation or something like that. Which honestly, that's pretty good. Like, I mean,
yeah, he'd kill us.
Yeah, right. He'd run a lot faster and jump higher than we would. But he was not top notch for male sports. Well, he transitions to being a woman, and now he's a woman, and he's blowing them all out of the water in competitions. And he just got disqualified last month. There's a story. He got disqualified because he tested positive for having too much testosterone, or not positive, but he just tested for too much testosterone. So there's limits.
His amount of in his body. So the way they measure that, whatever it is, I'm not a science.
You're not a testes scientist.
Yes, I'm not. Definitely not that. Right. But
do you want to be?
The number that they measure was like between 0.03 and 2.4. He measures at twice that, like 5 point something.
Okay.
And so he's talking about how difficult it is for him because he's got to hold on to the testosterone that he has. So it is an absolute physiologically, we've got more as men. And he's trying to stop the loss of it, but has to admit that he's got literally the element inside of him that makes it an unfair advantage versus a woman.
Who doesn't have that amount of testosterone.
Because she was never meant to. And you take, there was an Aussie, like super athlete. She comes in, she goes, come on, they're physiologically, they're bigger, they're taller, which gives them an advantage in their stride. Right? The male lungs take in more oxygen than the female lungs, from what she said. Right? So like there's all kinds of different things here that are fundamentally different that don't change because you grow your hair out and you get balloons in your chest.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't, and you start taking hormones. Like that does not necessarily change. It's not real. If I was a woman, I would be so ticked off.
Especially a woman who maybe had a chance at a championship
or a scholarship.
Or a spot on the Olympic team that now doesn't get it because there's a trans athlete. And here's
or an endorsement. Imagine how much money these women athletes are being ripped off from.
Yeah.
Because when you go down these roads of asking dumb questions and trying to say, can we do it, and not whether we should do it, then eventually the confusion gets to insane places. That's where we're at.
And that's right. And it's exactly where we're at. In there was a spot on Matt Walsh the other day, and the trans community is now making an argument that trans men are better women, quote unquote, than actual real women are for dating relationships.
Right. Yeah, he does this. I saw it on Ben Shapiro, and then he links, he shows Matt Walsh, and it's hilarious because it's this guy who is trying, he looks like a dame, right? And then he...
What is this, 1940?
a dame, a chick, a woman. So he looks like that. He's trying to present himself that way. changed his name or whatever, and but he's trying to make the argument that heterosexual men would do better to date a trans woman himself than to date a real woman.
And what are the arguments to support that logic or lack thereof?
I'm sorry, you can't write this stuff, man. So
it's pretty awesome because it gives us so much material. We don't have to search long and hard to find good material in these podcasts. We literally started a couple hours ago. Hey, what are we going to talk about? And we've got like 4 episodes worth of material.
So he mentions that. Well, let's see. Oh, he mentions that a trans woman knows more about. They like the little things more than women do. So all you have to do to make them happy is just hold their hand in public, where you actually have to buy a real woman something nice. You have to actually, he throws out like $100. You got to spend $100 on her because a real woman is bougie.
This is not happening.
No, honestly, this is what he says. And then he's like, and they will take care of your needs better because they've been a man and they know how men are wired because they've been on the other side, if you know what they mean, right? And then he kind of find they're stronger. They're stronger than women.
That's true.
Because they've had to go through more adversity than a real
emotionally
woman.
stronger.
Right?
Not physically stronger, like in an arm wrestling contest.
And so they are just far nicer than a real woman. And finally ends up, there's one I'm missing here, because I thought he had 5 points. But the one point he gets to finally is that that they take better care of themselves in getting ready and doing their hair and doing their makeup and picking out their clothes. They are more feminine than a real woman. So women suck at what they do, and men can do it better than women can do it.
Gosh. I don't know. I'm
my
lost
daughter,
for words.
Kari's in the back seat. I like, Kari, you have to see this. She gets out. She goes, I am so unbelievably offended by what this guy said. It's like totally just
undermining women.
Well, you got trans women in the world now, ladies, and they think they're better at being ladies than you are.
Oh my goodness. And this is what's being, again, like the sports, to go back to woke sports, they're pushing this. I mean, it's the absurdity of this is mind-blowingly stupid. Now, again, we talked about it early in the show, like God gives us, this is my, as a political, I ran for office, in Indiana. People would ask me these questions. They said, are you going to take away my right to be gay? I'm like, what? No, I'm not going to take away your right to be gay. I'm not going to push for your right to be gay to be taken away and they would say, well, why not? Because, you always talk like you're anti-gay. And I was like, I'm not anti the person. And my belief is that God gives us the ability and the freedom to be stupid. Okay, so God gives us the freedom to be stupid. I think the government should also give us freedoms to be stupid to some extent. If you're not a threat to the society, to community, I mean, there's a place for the government to step in and say, hey, your stupid's going to affect, the family.
But aren't we there?
Well, yeah, I mean
when
emotionally,
when we say that their level, what they're doing is stupid, isn't affecting us. It is affecting us.
And you go to the trans teens, the suicide rate right now is around 40%.
40%.
Yeah. So it's the argument to be made. It's like, hey, this is affecting us. So how in the world have we gotten there? Well, this is what I say is like good people who know morality, have stayed silent too long. Pastors won't address this issue. I tell people, we're 2 pastors, here, Nathan and I, and we're doing this podcast called Jesus, Sex, and Politics. They're like, oh my gosh, you're talking about things that we would never talk about to our congregation.
You should be talking about it.
But you should be. This is the reason we have trans guys saying they're better women than women.
Because where there's no vision, the people become the concept is that they're unrestrained.
Yeah.
Restraining to what God wants us to be is good for us.
Yeah.
To let yourself go all over the place. Like you have a river it brings life to an area. As long as it stays in its banks, it stays in its borders, it stays within its boundaries. But when it goes outside of that, you have a flood and you have destruction.
Yeah.
You know? And so for us to talk about this and then be told, well, this is bigoted. No, this thing that Matt Walsh is referencing, he's literally saying, heterosexual men, if you don't find trans women attractive and don't want to date one, you're a bigot. No, actually, you're a man because you don't want to be with another man.
That's right.
You know, you're the way God designed men to operate.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
Do you think this is a ploy by the Earth is too populated people, like the Bill Gates of the world that want to limit population?
Oh, that was number 5.
Oh, was it really?
That was 5. Yes, if you are a man that doesn't want to have children, then good for you. A trans woman is what you want. Because they can't have children. They can keep their body nice and fit for you and all this different stuff. Okay, this was his argument. And then you know, so Matt Walsh just goes, okay, so wait a minute. So we really have those that can have children and those who can't have children. He says, a woman can have children unless she's too old or she's got some kind of a physical disease or something like that, something that's
an ailment,
ailment, right? Yeah. So we've got almost like there's two, one that could be impregnated and the other that can't. And he goes, oh, it's a binary system.
Oh man, it's amazing to see the feminists coming out against transgenderism because of how the men are now taking over ground that the feminists have fought so hard for decades, right? They're like women's right, the women's lib movement, and now you have trans men who are sweeping in and saying, "Oh, give me that! You know what? You've worked hard for sports, for women's rights in sports. You know what? I'm going to take that gold medal from you." And it's like, it honestly is awesome. I sit back and I just chuckle. I'm like, yep, that's the blind eating the blind, right? You know what I mean? It's just. And so, but here we are, and going back to sports again. We also have this Gwen Berry. If you saw it last month, she turned her back on the American flag. She's a black athlete, and she gets up on the platform in the hammer throw. She qualified, or she took third in U.S. qualification for the Olympics, and she turns her back on the American flag. And why? When she was asked why did she do that, she's like, "I'm not going to respect the flag that doesn't respect my people." And I'm thinking to myself, your people. I thought we were all one. This is the United States of America. What do you mean your people? Like, this is the problem. Sports is now becoming a place where division is happening that should never be there. It's like, don't listen. If you want to be an activist, go for it. I'm fine. If you want to fight for rights, go for it. I'm fine. If you think your people, quote unquote, Gwen Berry, are oppressed, well, then go and fight for justice. But don't bring it into this national pastime of running, like the Olympics
is about nations.
No kidding.
This is your nation. Go represent your nation.
Yep.
You want to fight for things within the nation? That's okay. It's fine, yeah. That's no problem. But we are your people.
Yes.
We are your people.
Yeah.
The thing I think that's amazing is how it seems the enemy wants to divide us up. And it's even where the early church starts. You got Gentiles and Jews, like these two races of men, Ephesians says, right? And God puts us back together again through the cross, through what Jesus did, into this new race of men. So if we fundamentally believe that, and maybe this person is not a Christian, right? And they just buy what everybody says. But for the believer, because this is Jesus, Sex, and Politics, right? For the believer, we should not see ourselves as all these differences. Yeah. What we're supposed to say is, this is how we treat Christians, right? This is what we do in the family of faith. And this is how we treat our fellow man. Right? And it's the Christian ideals of America that makes it's supposed to make living good for everybody.
Yeah.
That's why you celebrate athletes competing together, whatever color they are. Who cares about that, right? But they're competing together because this is what you could do as a human being.
Yeah.
Right? I just,
there was a communist Russian spy that defected to the United States back in the 70s and 80s, and he's passed away. I think he passed away in the 90s. And he said that after the Cold War was ended, and Reagan basically ended that in the mid 80s is when that ended. He said the Russians didn't stop with their assault on the United States. He said they went a different direction. They went into basically psychological warfare and division. And they said they tried to implement socialist Marxist ideologies to divide us from within. So they started planting professors in academia. They started planting these divisive ideologies in the hearts and minds of Americans. He said the problem was they were looking at Marxism as a social class division, so upper and lower class, right? They were trying to divide us the way the classic Marxist division happens through financial classism, right? But he said in America, the problem the Soviets ran into was that America has such a strong middle class that they couldn't get us divided because most people in America had good lives. They were working. They were constantly able to move up. They were content. There was a lot of contentment. It wasn't like they had to be millionaires, and they weren't. Most people weren't living in the slums, and so there wasn't this ability to be able to divide us the way they needed to. And then they found out in the early 2000s and the late 90s, early 2000s, what would divide us. And this guy, before he died, he said, "This is what's coming." He said that it's race. They're going to use race to divide in America. And sure enough, that's been what has been the crux of all of this, where they have divided us. They pitted us against each other, and now we see that. Lincoln said, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down from within. There's not going to be a foreign power that's going to be able to overtake us. It'll be destruction from within, essentially.
And our founders knew that we were coming from all these different cultures, but we were desiring the same great thing, and that was liberty under a constitution that enabled a fairness to excel. So e pluribus unum is out of many one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, we realize we're coming from different places, but we're coming here looking for this thing that brings us together. We were called the Great Melting Pot, not the little cupcake country that divides into all of its
colors,
its little cupcake containers. That wasn't what we were designed to be. And so you have to go back and realize the greatness of this thing is that we could all rise. We want the rules. Lady Liberty, no, I'm sorry, not Lady Liberty, Lady Justice. She wears a blindfold and she has scales in her hands. She has a sword. And the point is, this is supposed to exist for all of us.
You can't even say you're colorblind anymore. That, in some way, shape, or form, is
a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. I remember having a conversation with a pastor from Ohio, and he had an adopted daughter who's black, and she was at the time, I think, probably 7-8 years old. And he asked this question on social media. He said, "How do I go about teaching my daughter that she's going to be growing up as a black girl in America? How do I teach her properly?" I don't know if he was really genuinely seeking an answer or if he was just seeking the response of what people would give him. And but anyway, I chimed in. I said, "Why does her blackness have anything to do with this conversation? Teach her that she's fearfully and wonderfully made, that God has designed her exactly how she is, that she should walk in that proudly as a child to the King. Teach her to be colorblind," is what I said. Teach her to see people for the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And he said, "Micah, I can't believe you would say that." He said, you're missing the point here. And I said, "I think you're missing the point."
I mean, what Martin Luther King says right there, he's saying, look deeper.
Yeah.
Look deeper.
I mean, if you're stuck on somebody's skin color, and so there's Gwen Berry, it's like, listen, you've gotten so you've gotten so tripped up by something that's so shallow, literally the pigment of your skin color.
But you had no choice in the matter, right?
Yeah.
God chose that for you.
Yeah.
And anybody who's told that their skin color is bad, none of us should accept that.
Yeah.
We should be repulsed by that thinking. And yet, a lot of what critical race theory is saying is that we should apologize for our skin color. It's ridiculous. It ought not matter to anybody.
There was a AP class in the Noblesville schools. I'm going to see if I can find it here. And it was a Austin Channing Brown book that they had to read, and in it, this is one of the paragraphs in it. I'll read it right here. It's all about critical race theory. It's all about focusing on color. And Austin Channing Brown says this: at my Christian elementary school, we sang "Jesus loves the little children, red and yellow, black and white, all oppress us in his sight." In alignment with this song, white people often professed, "I don't even see color," reassuring me that I would be safe from racism with them. And yet I learned pretty early in life that while Jesus may be cool with racial diversity, America is not. The ideology that whiteness is supreme, better, best permeates the air we breathe. In our schools, in our offices, in our country's common life, white supremacy is a tradition that must be named and a religion that must be renounced. When this work has not been done, those who live in whiteness become oppressive, whether intentional or not. So if you haven't done the work that they're demanding of you, then you're oppressive, whether intentional or not. And yeah, Jesus might be cool with racial diversity, but America is not. I mean, this is in 11th grade. This is in central Indiana, mind you. And this is what we're filling our 11th graders' minds with. No wonder our kids are so stupid.
And I'll tell you, here's the truth. They're not happier.
No,
there's
absolutely.
no way that a kid growing up with this kind of contention, where they're like, holy cow, man.
They've got enemies because everywhere they walk now, the whole school, the superintendents, the teachers have divided that school into friend and foe. So you have hallways filled with foes, and you have hallways filled with friends, and that's a war zone. That's not a school. That's a war zone, and it's because we have allowed this to happen. We have allowed the divisiveness to come in. Anytime someone says, "Hey, this is why the Gwen Berries and the wokeism in sports is so troubling, is because it's dividing our kids against one another. It's dividing our neighbors against one another. We will fall as a nation, not from outside, but from within, when we destroy ourselves, and that's what we have to stand up and fight against, or else we're not gonna last very much longer.
That little song, which I grew up singing that song, right?
Yeah.
Red and yellow, black and white.
It's actually red, brown, yellow, black and white. Did you know that? Red, brown, yellow, black and white. They're all precious.
I don't think that was in my version.
Well, do you not like brown people?
No, it's totally fine. I just don't remember that being in the version that I learned as a kid. But anyway, the point is that when Jesus has a way he thinks, we're to get in alignment with the way he thinks. Yeah. Just change. You do need to change your mind. Like, nobody wants racism in the world. We want it destroyed, but you can't fight racism with racism.
Yeah.
That will not work.
Amen to that, brother. Well, hopefully I think sports as they keep losing dollars. I mean, at some point they're going to be like, we should probably get off the political crap and start just playing sports.
I'll tell you, I hope that they get rid of Roger Goodell.
Oh yeah, he's terrible.
The NFL.
He's terrible.
I think he's a disaster.
What a virtue signaler. He's got a backbone that's as squishy as a jellyfish.
I hope that they get some better leadership.
Yeah, terrible leader. On that note, thanks for joining us.
Have a good day.
Yeah, hey, subscribe and like. When you hit the subscribe button and the like button, it throws us
give us 5 stars.
Yes, absolutely. Tell your friends about Jesus, Sex, and Politics. We hope you enjoyed these conversations, and we're real here. So, again, this has been Jesus, Sex, and Politics. I'm Micah.
I'm Nathan.
We talk about all the things culture doesn't want to talk about.
That was true. See you next time.